The scars in the throne hall. The night was cold when Meera stepped into the crimson court, with her sleeping daughter held tight in her arms. The throne hall smelled of old blood and ancient power. A long line of desperate humans stood before the obsidian throne, each one begging the vampire king for shelter. Every single one had been rejected. Some left in tears, some trembling with fear. Meera's heart pounded as she waited, knowing she had no other place left to run. Her scars burned under the bright torches. The left side of her face and neck was twisted with deep burn marks, the kind that made people stare, whisper, or turn away. Her cloak was old, patched many times, and her hands shook slightly as she held Lumi closer. The little girl slept peacefully, unaware of the cruel eyes staring at them. When Meera's turn finally came, nobles in crimson silk leaned forward to mock her. One vampire woman laughed loudly. "Look at her face. Did fire try to eat her alive?" Another whispered, "Humans like her bring misfortune." Someone else called Lumi a cursed child. Shame and fear filled Meera's chest, but she kept her eyes on the floor. Then the throne hall fell silent. The vampire king lifted his hand. His voice was calm but sharp enough to cut stone. "Silence!" Everyone obeyed instantly. King Kale's crimson eyes narrowed as he studied the trembling woman before him. His presence was cold, distant, and dangerous, yet there was something curious in his gaze. "State your name," he commanded. "Meera Ashwood." "And my daughter Lumi, we seek sanctuary." More laughter rose from the nobles, but Kale did not allow it this time. "Step forward," he said. Meera climbed the marble steps, her knees weak. She felt small under his gaze as the torches flickered against her ruined skin. Kale's expression shifted. He studied the scars closely, his face becoming unreadable. "These burns," he murmured. "This pattern, not normal fire," Meera froze. No one had ever recognized it before. Her voice trembled. "It happened 2 years ago." "My village? A witch-fire attack," Kale finished quietly. Gasps filled the hall. Witch-fire was feared even among vampires. Kale stood from his throne, something he rarely did, and stepped closer, his height towering over her. He hovered his hand near her jaw, not touching, but close enough that she felt the cold power of him. "Few survive witch-fire," he said. "And fewer walk with scars like these." Meera tried to speak, but her throat tightened. She glanced at Lumi, still sleeping, still innocent. Kale followed her gaze. "Where was the child during the fire?" "In my arms," Meera whispered. "The flames came for us. I tried to cover her. I thought I would die." But then she screamed, and Meera hesitated. "And?" Kale pressed gently. The fire bent around her. Like it was afraid of her. The hall erupted with fear. "She's witch-born," a noble cried. "Remove them before she burns us." Kale's aura exploded like a storm. A wave of red power struck the chamber, forcing every noble to their knees. Meera gasped and nearly fell, but Kale caught her arm and steadied her. His voice rolled through the hall like thunder. "No one will touch this woman or her child." Silence returned, heavy and absolute. Kale looked at Meera with something almost human in his gaze. "You came here seeking safety, you will have it. Until I learn the full truth, you and your daughter fall under my protection." Meera's legs gave out, and she sank to the steps, shaking with disbelief. After years of running, someone finally believed her. Someone finally stood between her and danger. Kale extended his hand, the hall watching in stunned silence. "Come," he said. "You are safe here." Against every instinct born from fear and pain, Meera placed her scarred hand into his. And for the first time in years, she did not feel alone. Secrets in the moonlit chamber. Meera followed the vampire king through a long corridor lit by silver lanterns. She expected darkness, chains, or a cold dungeon. Instead, Kale led her into a quiet circular chamber filled with shelves of old books and tall windows overlooking moonlit gardens. Soft rugs covered the wooden floor, and a gentle fire warmed the room. Nothing about this place felt cruel. Lumi stirred in her arms, eyes blinking sleepily. The child looked around, fascinated by the glowing crystals embedded in the walls. Kale watched her with calm interest, not fear. "She is tired," he said. "A servant will take her to the nursery," a kind-faced vampire woman entered, bowing respectfully. Lumi hesitated at first, gripping her mother's cloak. Meera knelt and kissed her forehead. "Go, little one." "I'm right here." Lumi finally nodded and slipped her hand into the servant's before leaving. She looked up at Kale and said softly, "You have pretty hair." For a moment, Kale looked almost surprised. Then a faint, quiet smile touched his lips so quick Meera wasn't sure she had seen it. When the door closed, silence filled the room again. "Sit," Kale said gently. Meera sat near the fire, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. Without Lumi in her arms, she felt exposed, small, and painfully aware of her scars. Kale poured deep red wine into 2 glass cups wine, not blood, and offered one to her. She took it with shaking hands. "I want the truth," he said. "Everything." From the beginning, Meera stared into the fire. The memories stabbed at her like shards of broken glass. "It was a spring morning," she whispered. "The cherry trees were blooming. I was cooking breakfast when I heard screaming." Her voice trembled as she described the white fire consuming her village, not spreading like normal flame but hunting like a living predator. She told him about the witches in silver masks, the people who fell into ash, and the terror of trying to run with her baby in her arms. "I covered Lumi," she said, touching her scarred cheek. "The fire hit me instead. It burned from the inside, like my bones were melting. I thought I would die holding her." She took a shuddering breath. "But then she screamed, and the fire stopped." Kale listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable but intense. "Your daughter didn't put out the fire," he said softly. "She commanded it." Meera looked up, confused. "Commanded it?" Kale nodded. "Witch fire obeys only powerful magic." But Lumi did not cast a spell. Her power responded to fear and love. That makes her a wellspring, one born with raw magic, not taught. Meera's heart raced. "Then the witches, they want her?" "They have hunted her for 2 years." Kale's voice darkened. "And now they know you came here." Fear gripped Meera's chest. "Then we should run, tonight, before they find us." "No," Kale stepped forward firmly. "If you run now, they will catch you within days. Your daughter's magic is growing. Soon it will shine like a beacon. She needs training, discipline, and protection. And only this palace can provide it." Meera shook her head. "She's just a little girl. She shouldn't have to fight." Kale knelt in front of her. For the first time, his voice softened fully. "I do not want her to fight. I want her to live." Meera looked into his crimson eyes and saw something she never expected: regret, pain, responsibility. "You survived witchfire," Kale said. "You protected your child when no one else could." "Your scars are not weakness, Meera. They are proof of your strength." Her throat tightened. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not since her village burned. Not since she became the scarred woman. Kale stood and extended his hand again, not as a king commanding, but as someone offering trust. "Stay, let me protect both of you. Let me teach your daughter control before her magic turns against her." Meera looked at the hand, remembering how he had held it out in the throne hall. She had nothing left in the world, nowhere else to go. And for the first time, she felt that someone powerful was standing for her, not against her. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. Kale nodded once. "Good, tomorrow we begin." Outside the window, the moon glowed bright as if watching over them. For the first time since the fire, Meera felt a small spark of safety settle inside her heart. Not certainty, not trust, just the beginning of hope. Council of fangs and fear. The next morning, the palace was filled with whispers. A human woman with burned scars and a magic-born child had entered the king's private chambers. Some nobles were shocked, others furious, and a few terrified. By noon, the High Council demanded an emergency meeting. Meera waited outside the great council hall, hands tightened together, heart racing. She could hear the raised voices inside, echoing off the stone walls. She held her breath, afraid they were arguing about her and Lumi. She was right. Inside, the council chamber burned with tension. 7 ancient vampires sat around a long obsidian table, their faces pale and strict. King Kale stood at the head, arms crossed behind him, silent but firm. "This is reckless," Lord Theron snapped. "A scarred human woman and a dangerous child under royal protection? What madness is this? General Corvus, older and battle-worn, frowned. My king, the covens have been quiet for decades. If they learn the child is here, we may provoke war. Kale remained still. War will come whether or not she is here. The covens have already begun testing our borders. Lady Seraphine, elegant and calm, tapped her fingers on the table. Your Majesty, we do not question your judgment, but we must understand your reason. Why protect them? Kale's eyes sharpened. Because the child is a wellspring. The entire hall froze. Natural conduit? Seraphine whispered. Born with raw magic? Kale nodded. She bent witch fire at the age of 3. If the covens obtain her, they will wield a weapon strong enough to destroy kingdoms. Murmurs rippled through the room. Fear, disbelief, greed. Lord Cashin leaned forward, voice dripping with suspicion. Or perhaps this is all too convenient. A woman who somehow survives witch fire, a child with unheard power. And both walk into our doorstep? Tell me, my king, does that not sound like a trap? Kale's jaw clenched. Speak carefully, Lord Cashin. Cashin smirked. What if the mother is a sleeper agent? What if the covens scarred her to gain sympathy, then sent her here to weaken us from within? Kale slammed his hand on the table. The obsidian cracked down the middle, the sound echoing like thunder. Every council member flinched. Meera Ashwood watched her village burn. Kale growled. She threw herself into witch fire to save her child. She has lived every day in pain. And you dare to accuse her of treachery? Cashin didn't back down. Pain can be manufactured. Stories can be crafted. And kings can be deceived. Kale's red aura flickered with controlled fury. If she were an agent, she would have handed the child to them long ago. Instead, she has spent 2 years running, starving, and hiding. Use your mind, not your fear? The room fell silent. General Corvus cleared his throat. Even if she is innocent, the risk remains. If we shelter a wellspring, the covens will consider it an act of war. Kale looked at each council member calmly. Then we prepare. I will not send a child to her death because cowards tremble at shadows. Lady Seraphine sighed. Very well, my king. You ask for our trust? You have it. But be warned, many nobles fear you are choosing a single human over your entire kingdom. Kale's voice turned cold. If protecting a child is seen as betrayal, then perhaps the kingdom needs to remember what justice means. Lord Cashin suddenly stood. I cannot support this insanity. I refuse to take part in this council until reason returns. He turned to leave. Cashin, Kale said quietly. The Lord hesitated. If I learn you are acting in secret, if you even think of harming that child or her mother, I will teach you why I am king. Cashin paled and bowed stiffly before leaving. When the council dismissed, Kale walked out slowly, heavy with thought. Meera, who had been waiting in the hallway, froze when she saw him. His expression softened when their eyes met. You heard? He asked gently. She nodded, eyes uncertain. They hate us. No, Kale replied. They fear what they do not understand, but fear is not truth. And it will not decide your fate here. Meera lowered her gaze. You defended us. Even when they stood against you. Kale stepped closer, his voice deep and steady. I will defend you again and again, until this kingdom sees what I see. What do you see? She whispered. A mother who survived the impossible, he said, and a child who may one day save us all. For a moment, Meera forgot the scars on her skin, the pain in her heart, and the fear in her bones. For the first time, she felt seen, not as a burden, not as a monster, but as someone who mattered. Outside, storm clouds gathered over the palace. War was coming, but she was no longer facing it alone. Garden of Emberlight. The moon was high when Kale led Meera and Lumi into the hidden garden behind the palace. Unlike the cold stone halls, this place felt alive. Silver roses climbed the dark walls, glowing softly. Strange flowers pulsed with gentle blue light. A quiet fountain shimmered like liquid moonlight. Meera had never seen anything so peaceful. Lumi clutched her stuffed rabbit nervously. Mama, why are we here? Kale knelt beside her. To help you. Your magic listens to you, little one. But only if you learn how to speak to it, Meera tensed. She's still so young. What if something goes wrong? Kale looked at her, his gaze steady. That is why you are both here. Magic reacts to emotion. When you fear, she fears. When you breathe, she breathes. Meera swallowed hard but nodded. Kale placed Lumi in the center of the garden. The flowers brightened around her as if drawn to her small presence. Show me your hands, he said. Lumi raised her palms. A faint golden shimmer rippled across her skin, as gentle as sunshine. Meera gasped softly. Lumi looked scared. I didn't mean to. Kale shook his head. You did well. Now listen carefully. Think of something that made you upset, but only a little. Lumi bit her lip. Tommy pulled my hair once. Good. Hold that feeling like a warm stone. Not too hot, just warm. Lumi's small hands glowed brighter. Sparks flickered at her fingertips. Meera stepped forward in panic, but Kale stopped her gently. If you interrupt her now, she'll lose control. Trust her. It took all her strength, but Meera forced herself to stay still. Now breathe, Kale said. Slow, like blowing a candle but not putting it out. Lumi inhaled softly and exhaled. The sparks faded. The glow settled. Her eyes widened. I did it, Meera covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. Lumi, you're amazing. Kale smiled faintly. Again. For nearly an hour, Lumi practiced calling the magic and calming it again. Sometimes the light grew too bright, sometimes too weak, but each time Kale guided her back to control. Meera watched, torn between pride and fear. Finally, Kale knelt beside Lumi. Now, little one, think of your happiest memory. Easy, Lumi whispered. Mama's lullaby. She began humming softly, and the glow from her palms became warm and golden, like a sunrise. It shimmered through the garden, lighting the roses gently instead of burning them. Meera felt her heart ache at the beauty of it. Lumi wasn't a danger, she was a gift. But Kale was watching Meera now. Not Lumi, you sing to her every night, he said quietly. Meera nodded. It was the only thing I could give her. When we were running, Kale stepped closer. In the soft glow, her scars looked like molten silver instead of ruined flesh. You kept her alive when no one else could. You fought fire with love. His words made her breath catch. No one had spoken to her like this, not since before the fire. Not since her life had turned to ash. Suddenly, Lumi's glow flared too bright. A wave of heat shot outward. Meera cried out and reached for her daughter just as the fire leapt toward her. Kale moved faster than thought. He pulled Meera into his arms, shielding her. The heat washed around him like wind. When the flare faded, Lumi gasped in horror. Mama, I didn't mean it. Meera pushed free and rushed to her, gathering her into a tight hug. It's okay, I'm okay. Kale watched them, breathing deeply. His cloak was scorched at the edges, but he didn't care. Do you see? He said gently, she is powerful, but she needs guidance. She needs safety, she needs you. Meera held Lumi close and whispered, I'm here. Always. When she finally looked up, Kale was standing under the moonlight, his hair drifting in the breeze, his crimson eyes softer than she had ever seen. Something shifted quietly inside her trust, maybe. Or something deeper, something dangerous. A sudden rustle came from outside the garden wall. Kale's expression hardened instantly. He turned toward the sound, eyes glowing with warning. We are being watched. A cold shiver ran down Meera's spine. Lumi clutched her tightly. Kale stepped protectively in front of them. Return to your chamber, he said. Whoever hides in the shadows tonight will not remain hidden for long. Meera followed him out of the garden with Lumi in her arms. But her heart thudded with fear. Someone had been spying on them. Someone who knew the child's power. Someone who would not stop watching. Fire at the gates, the palace slept under a quiet midnight sky, but Meera could not rest. After the strange sound in the garden, a cold fear had settled in her chest. She sat by Lumi's bed, watching her daughter breathe softly, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Meera brushed a strand of hair from her forehead and whispered, I won't let anything hurt you. But danger arrived sooner than she imagined. A sudden tremor shook the room. The lanterns flickered violently. Then a loud boom rolled across the palace, followed by the distant sound of shouting guards. Meera jumped to her feet. Lumi woke with a cry. Another tremor rattled the windows. White flames illuminated the sky. Meera's heart froze. Witch dashed fire. Before she could move. The door burst open and Kale strode in, cloak swirling behind him. "Both of you come with me." His voice was sharp, urgent. Flames reflected in his crimson eyes. "What's happening?" Meera gasped. "The coven found us," Kale said. "They've broken the outer wards." Fear squeezed Meera's throat. "We have to run." "No," Kale cut her off. "They will catch you outside these walls. You stay with me?" Another blast shook the palace. Lumi clung to Meera, trembling. Kale knelt to meet the child's eyes. "Little Ember, listen to me. Stay calm. Your magic reacts to fear." Lumi nodded shakily. Kale led them into a stone corridor filled with rushing guards. Some carried injured soldiers. Others ran toward the burning gates. The air smelled of smoke and panic. Meera noticed the flames outside the windows, tall pillars of white fire devouring the sky. As they neared the great hall, a squad of guards barricaded the entrance. "The coven is inside the courtyard," one shouted. "We can't hold them," a chilling voice echoed from beyond the flames. "Give us the child, King Kale, and we will spare your people." Meera's blood turned to ice. A masked witch stepped into view, her silver mask gleaming. White fire curled around her fingers like snakes. Behind her, more figures appeared, tall, robed witches chanting in unison. Kale's eyes narrowed. "You have no place in my domain. You shelter what belongs to us," the witch hissed. "A wellspring is born once in a century. She will not belong to a mortal mother. She belongs to magic." "To us?" Lumi whimpered and hid behind Meera. The witch raised her hand, and a surge of white fire shot forward. Kale reacted instantly. A barrier of crimson energy exploded from his body, intercepting the flames. The impact shook the hall, forcing Meera to her knees. "Run!" Kale shouted. "Take Lumi to the inner chamber." But Meera didn't move. "I won't leave you." "You must," he answered, but his eyes softened for a heartbeat before Meera could speak. A new voice cut through the chaos. "Well done," it drawled. "We opened the wards exactly as you commanded." Meera turned and froze. Lord Cashin stepped from the shadows, his expression proud, cruel, triumphant. "My king, I warned you this woman and child were a threat. You wouldn't listen, so I made sure the coven could retrieve them." Meera's breath stopped. "You betrayed us?" Cashin sneered. "A wellspring belongs to the covens, not to a worthless human or a sentimental king." Kale's fury ignited like a storm. "You will regret this." Cashin only smirked. "Not if I live long enough to see her handed over." The witches unleashed another wave of white fire. Meera shielded Lumi with her body, screaming as the heat pressed against her skin. But before the flames touched them, Lumi's small hands lit up with golden light. "Mama!" "I'm scared," she whispered. "Breathe," Meera cried through tears. "Remember what Kale taught you. Breathe." Lumi squeezed her eyes shut. The golden glow spread from her palms, creating a warm shield around them. The witchfire hit it and stopped. The flames curled, bent, and twisted as if unsure. Kale stared in shock. "She's controlling it." Suddenly the masked witch pointed at Lumi. "Take her!" A witch broke forward, charging toward them. Meera grabbed a fallen spear, despite trembling arms, and swung it wildly. "Don't touch my daughter!" The spear didn't strike the witch, but it slowed her. Long enough for Lumi's glow to flare again. A wave of golden energy burst outward, knocking the witch off her feet and scattering white fire like dust. Lumi gasped. "Mama, it listens." "Yes," Meera whispered, pulling her close. "It listens to you." Kale stepped in front of them again, his aura blazing with power. "As long as I breathe, no witch will lay a hand on this child." The masked witch hissed. "Then you will die tonight, King of Fangs." But something shifted in the air, an energy building around Lumi, stronger than before. The white flames in the courtyard began to pulse, as if waiting for her command. Meera held her daughter's shaking hands. "Lumi, sweetheart?" "Tell the fire what you want." Lumi looked at the burning sky, then at her mother, then at Kale. "Stop," she whispered. "Protect. Don't hurt Mama. Don't hurt anyone good." Golden light burst upward, meeting the witch-fire in the sky. The flames twisted violently, then froze in place. The witches recoiled in horror. Kale looked at Lumi with awe. "She's turning the fire." The masked witch took a step back. "Impossible." But Lumi's glow dimmed suddenly. She swayed, dizzy. Meera caught her before she fell. Behind them, the coven leader pointed a trembling finger. "The child is awakening. Take her before she becomes unstoppable." Kale moved to shield them, his fangs bared, wings of energy forming around him. "If you want her," he snarled, "you face me." The witches advanced. The palace trembled. Lumi was barely conscious, and Meera knew the real battle. The hand that chose Hoptha. Courtyard blazed with clashing colors, white witch fire and Lumi's golden light fighting for control. Meera held her daughter tightly, trying to steady her trembling hands. Lumi's breathing was fast and weak, her small body drained from the sudden burst of power. Kale stood between them and the coven, his aura burning like a crimson storm. "Step back," he warned, "or face the wrath of my kingdom." The masked witch laughed coldly. "Your kingdom is nothing beside a wellspring child. Give her to us and we might spare you." Kale's expression hardened. "I do not bend to monsters." The witches attacked again. White fire streaked across the courtyard. Kale met it with a blast of red energy. The collision shook the ground. Guards rushed in, but the witch fire destroyed shields and armor with ease. Meera knew they couldn't hold much longer. Lumi pushed weakly against her. "Mama, I need to help." "No," Meera whispered desperately. "You're too tired." "But they'll hurt you," Lumi cried. "They'll hurt him too." Meera's heart squeezed. Lumi's power came from emotion. Fear twisted it, but love guided it. She remembered Kale's words. "Fear breeds chaos. Love breeds control." Meera kissed Lumi's forehead. "Then don't fight with fear. Fight with the part of you that wants to keep us safe." Lumi nodded through tears. Kale stumbled back as a wave of witchfire hit him. Meera ran forward instinctively, grabbing his arm. "Kale!" He steadied himself, blood dripping from a cut on his cheek. He glanced at Meera, then at Lumi. "I can hold them a little longer, but she must decide now. Her power is rising. If she doesn't shape it, it will break her." The masked witch raised her hands for a final strike. "The child belongs to us? No!" Lumi cried. Her hands glowed, slow at first, then brighter. Golden light spread across the courtyard, wrapping around Meera, around Kale. Forming a warm shield, the witch fire hit it, then bent away like water around stone. The coven watched in disbelief. The masked leader hissed, "Impossible. She's too young to control it." Kale stepped forward, voice low and dangerous. "You underestimated her." "And her mother." The witches attacked again, this time with raw magic, not fire. Dark symbols lit the ground, swirling with shadow. Meera's heart pounded. "Lumi, remember the song. Your lullaby." Lumi closed her eyes and began to hum softly. The golden light responded instantly. It pulsed with the rhythm, growing steadier. The shadows faltered. The witch fire thinned. The masked witch screamed. "Stop her!" A dozen witches rushed forward. Kale unleashed a wave of crimson power, knocking several to the ground. "Stay behind me." But Lumi stepped beside him, small but radiant, her hand wrapped in her mother's. The child lifted her palm. Golden flames spiraled upward, surrounding Kale like a glowing shield. Her voice was faint but sure. "Fire. Protect. Fire. Obey." The white witch fire twisted violently, then turned on its masters. The masked witch shrieked as her own flames wrapped around her legs, consuming the dark power she commanded. Other witches tried to run, but the fire cut them off, forcing them to collapse or surrender. Kashen tried to flee through a side gate, but the golden fire cornered him. Kale strode toward him, eyes blazing. "You betrayed your kingdom, your people, and a child." Kashen fell to his knees, shaking. "Spare me, please." Kale looked at Lumi. The child frowned softly. No hurting, she whispered. Just stop. Golden light wrapped around Cashinot, burning, but binding him in warm chains he couldn't break. Justice without cruelty. Kale nodded with pride. Wise choice, little one. The remaining witches retreated, dragging their fallen leader. The courtyard finally grew quiet. The fires faded. The smoke cleared. And Lumi collapsed into Meera's arms, exhausted but safe. Kale approached slowly, his eyes softer now. She saved us all. Meera brushed her daughter's hair gently. No, we saved each other. Kale knelt beside them. You were brave, Meera, even when the flames rose. Even when you were shaking. I was terrified, she whispered. But you still stood, he said. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is choosing to protect despite it. His hand hovered near her face, hesitant. Meera did not pull away. He traced the edge of one scar lightly, reverently. These marks, he said softly, are not shame. They are proof of love, proof of strength. Tears welled in Meera's eyes. No one had ever touched her scars with anything except disgust. But Kale's touch felt like acceptance. Like healing, Lumi stirred weakly, reaching for Kale. Did I do good? Kale smiled, a real, gentle smile. You did more than good, little Ember. You changed the fate of our world. The child smiled sleepily and curled against Meera's chest. Kale stood and extended his hand. Both of you. Come with me? Stay here under my protection. Not as prisoners, not as guests, but as part of what I choose to protect. Meera looked at his hand, the same hand he had offered in the throne hall. The same hand that shielded her from fire. The same hand that never flinched from her scars. This time she took it without fear, and in that moment, the kingdom realized something powerful. The vampire king had not chosen war. He had not chosen tradition. He had not chosen cruelty. He had chosen hope. He had chosen a mother and her child. He had chosen a future shaped not by fear, but by love.